I already mentioned that with a bench multimeter you usually get more advanced functionality, and one of this is something that we can demonstrate with this voltage reference here, and it is we can get history and graph information. So when we select the graph functionality here, we can select between showing just a number, as we see here. We can get a bar graph where we can select the range. Right now it's an auto ranging which is just below 5 volt and just above 5 volts. We could select the full measurement range here, something that you can see here, where it's just at the beginning of the measurement range. But we also can select trend information, where we can see how does this value change over time. Right now it's configured to show just 1 minute of data, but you can also change it so you can see values for the whole measurement time. So if you let it run for 1 hour, you probably, with the reference in this meter here and the reference here in this meter, you can probably see all of the temperature changes here in my room. Probably if I can even change the voltages here if I just physically move the meter. That's enough to have little minute changes here, and you can see them here in the data. And that's something that you will not easily observe when you just look at the numbers here. You just see the numbers change here between 0 and 1, and here it's even more stable. And if you look at the axis here, it's 0.9999 volts here, and then it's 10 and 4 zeros here, and then it's 10 and 3 zeros here, so it's probably 10 4 zeros on the 1 actually. Currently we can see that it's steadily rising, so let's switch to all mode, and we can see the voltage is still rising. Probably something is still warming up, so I have neither the multimeter nor the reference here powered on for, let's say, an hour or so to wait for them to stabilize with their internal temperature. So that's something that's sometimes very handy when you can observe measurements over time. You can also use it when you're working on your circuit. You connect it to a specific value, and you can check whether this value stays constant over time or can observe any changes. You can select whether the scale should be automatically between the highest and the lowest measurement, or you can select a specific range when you are already knowing, okay, that's the range where my value should be. Currently this would be the 60 volt range, so it would not be very useful to have this to the full voltage range here, but actually selecting it manually would be helpful here in this case. But as I said, can be helpful, for example, measuring temperatures. So you can connect your temperature probe, fix it to an interesting device, and then you can do your measurements, and then you can see, okay, how has it changed over time? Did it get too warm? Do you see some spikes in there at certain points in time, or things like that? And the second one, probably not so interesting right now, is that you can switch from the trend to an histogram view. Again, you can have an automatic range, or can select this manually how you want to change that, how you want to have the different bins here configured. But you will get a nice information of, okay, how does my value relate in terms of do I see multiple peaks here? Do I see one peak? So for a stable voltage, I would expect really a nice bell-shaped curve, so just one value in the middle. Currently we can see also with the changing axis here that over time more new values on the high range appear here. So sometimes this big bar here in the middle just shifts a bit to the left and another new bar appears here. I also have a showcase where we can get other information from that. So that's also sometimes very helpful to see, even when you have kind of a stable measurement, maybe say, okay, it's still like 10.0 volts, like this one here. You in reality might have values which give you more information. Oh no, there was something even lower than that. But that's something that you usually do not get on an handheld multimeter. They do not have the user interface to actually configure all of this. What you need there, you cannot really do this with buttons like you do with this menu here on the screen. They also do not really have a screen where you can show such information. And also that's not really their use case. These are useful for long-term measurements, and that's something where you do not want to use a handheld multimeter, because for the battery it will not last for a day or something like that. Yeah, maybe for a day, but you will not run it for a week or something like that. That's not what you want to do with an handheld multimeter. It's actually interesting that it somehow selected smaller bins now, and for some of the values in between it missed to have original values. That's interesting. But we can see we have 800 values. Probably we could have switched on much faster readings for the voltages, then we would have much more values here. So this one can do up to 150 measurements per second if you want to, but I think they are not as accurate. If you use a lower frequency readings, then you get some averaging and you get more precise values. That's something that you cannot configure on the Edgeland here. It does like 3 or 4 readings per second. So that's the highest speed here.